All right, hello everyone. How are you guys today? I've got my chat back up, so we are good to go today. It's going to be a great day. If you guys have any questions, you can pop those into the chat there. I do try to look at the chat when I get a chance to, so I try to answer your questions, but I apologize if I miss them. We do have a great team of moderators here that is also able to help answer some questions, but today we are going to be going through a full cover tip application and really kind of getting down to the nitty gritty and to some of the basics of doing your full cover tip applications. And you guys, full cover tips are a great option for your clients if you are working in salon. They are also a great option for yourself if you are a DIYer, if you are wanting to put some extensions on yourself. They are definitely a great option. Now, those of you that have been with us for a while, you are probably noticing that I actually have taken off my full cover tips. I finally took those off. I had them on for about 3 weeks or so, and then I did fill them one time, and then I actually prefer to remove them every so often rather than to continue to fill them because my natural nails underneath do grow out. So I like to take those off every so often, shorten up my natural nails. And for today, I'm just leaving them short with a gel manicure, and I'm loving it. So if you guys are noticing that, everything is okay. Don't worry. I didn't lose my mind and say I'm not putting nails back on. I just wanted to go a little bit shorter. Spring and summer now. It's starting to get to gardening season. But welcome in everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. Again, we're going to go through a full cover tip application and really get down to some nitty gritty on how to apply these. So when you first start your application, the first thing, whether it's acrylic, hard gel, gel polish, whatever it is, I always start by pushing back the cuticles. Now, when you're pushing back the cuticles, you're doing a couple of things. Yes, you are maintaining those cuticles, cleaning those up so that all of your product is going to adhere really well and everything is going to, it's going to wear well. But the other thing when you're pushing back those cuticles that you're doing is you're going through a consultation with your client. So you're not just sitting here quietly, you're actually talking with your client and finding out what service they're having. Most likely you have that service in mind because you scheduled that service, but you can also talk about your different lengths. Do you want a longer nail? Do you want a shorter nail? Do you want a stiletto nail? Do you want a square nail? You guys, let me grab a couple of our other different tips. We have a whole bunch of different full cover tips. We've got the stiletto, which I think we're going to work with today. I'm feeling like we need a stiletto today. We've also got the extra long square. We've got full cover almond. We've got full cover coffin. So you guys, whatever basically shape and size you're wanting, you can create with any of these tips. They are customizable, so you can shorten them up. If you need to go a little shorter, you can reshape and you can customize the shape. So whatever shape you're wanting to do, again, you're going to be talking about that with your client or yourself as you're pushing back the cuticles. So discuss all of those different things while you're pushing back the cuticles. And then with a full cover tip, I do like to clip off the free edge. So if I'm putting a full cover tip on, or really any extension, I do generally cut off that free edge. And the reason for that, especially when we're working with the full cover tips, is because, let me grab one of these here. When you look in the well of the tip, you're going to see that there is a curve in there. There is a slight apex, so a little bit of an arch like you would with a full extension. So there is a little bit of a curve here. That natural nail is not always going to fit that curve through here all the way down to, now that I cut those all off, I can't show you, but that curve isn't necessarily going to fit all the way down to where that extension or that natural nail has grown out to. So by cutting down that free edge a little bit, you're going to get a better fit and a better bond with that full cover tip to that natural nail. So again, I always like to cut that nail a little bit shorter, and we can go through and shape that up a little bit. Now, you don't have to make this natural nail a perfect shape. Really just kind of smoothing out those rough edges, cleaning that up a little bit, and then also tapering in here along the sides. So you can see I do round that out, taper that in a little bit through this edge, just to make sure that I don't have any of that edge poking out the side. So again, I'm going to just grab an extra tip here. The reason that we round that out a little bit is so that we don't have that extra nail hanging off the edge. If we take a look at this nail, do you see how when I put that tip on, whoops, if I were to put that tip on, I have a little bit of that corner poking out. If I round out that free edge, I'm not going to have that little corner poking out. So that's one of the reasons that I'd like to go through, again, shorten up the nails, but taper those in a little bit on the side so that that tip is going to fit flush on there, especially if you're working with a stiletto or a coffin shape, because those are going to taper in a little bit more and you're not going to have as much width on the sides. Let me grab one of our, we'll just grab one of the either the coffin or the square tips, and I just want to show you the difference here a little bit. So if I grab one of our coffin shapes, so those are going to have a similar taper. So if you look right down through here on both of those, that's where it starts tapering in to more of that point. And really, you guys, if you were to take a stiletto and square off the end, that would basically be a coffin shape as well. So both the stiletto and the coffin shape do start to taper right in through here and come more to that really tight free edge. If we take a look at, I'm going to grab one of our XL tips. If we take a look at our XL tips, these are the square tips. Let me grab one of those. Now you guys, these are different sizes that I'm grabbing, but just to show you. All right, let me grab a smaller size. This one's way too big for what I'm trying to show you here. All right, so we've got about the same size here. So on our stiletto, again, you're going to notice that it starts to taper right in through here. And this is the area that is going to be just right about at that free edge point. So right at those corners. With our square nail, we don't have to worry about that tapering in. You could leave that nail a little bit more square. It's going to cover all the way down to that edge because it's not tapering in. It's not narrowing in like our coffin shape or our stiletto. So again, with the coffin shape or stiletto, when they do come in like that, they're going to leave that little corner uncovered. So again, make sure that you round that out, especially when you're using those shapes. Now, if you're using a square full cover, again, it's not going to make that much of a difference, but I still like to just kind of taper those in a little bit so that way I know that everything is going to cover really well. So just some helpful hints when you're choosing a size and shape. Now, let me find, which one are we going to do here today? We're going to use our stilettos, so let me grab those. If you, you guys, I think I'm going to lose my voice here. My goodness. If you're new to our channel, welcome in. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Get great free education here. Now, at this point, all we've done is push back the cuticles. We've shaped that free edge. We're going to size out our tips now, and then we'll finish the rest of the prep. The reason that we size out our tips now and then do the rest of our prep is because once our prep is done, we've removed shine and cleansed the nail, all that good stuff. And I'm going to tell you about all of that in a second. But once we've cleansed that nail, we don't want to be touching that. And sometimes when you are doing your sizing and customizing your tips, you may end up touching the surface of the nail. So only do your cuticles and shaping the free edge at this point, then size out your tips, and then go to finish the rest of your prep. And again, I'm going to show you guys all of these steps really in order on how I would recommend doing this service. All right, so we are going to size out our tips. Now, we're going to be using our tip and jewel adhesive to adhere these. And if you guys haven't used the tip and jewel adhesive, first of all, why not? You guys, I'm telling you, this stuff is absolutely amazing. You can use it to apply the full cover tips. You can use it to apply quarter well tips. You can use it to apply your jewels and rhinestones and all kinds of things like that. It works absolutely amazing. But you can see it is a very thick gel. So this is going to go underneath, or basically in the well of the tip. So we're going to apply our tip and jewel adhesive into the well, and then we're going to adhere that. Now, because we're using this thicker gel, we want to actually size our tips slightly larger than what you would normally do if you were just gluing them on. If you're just gluing the tip on, that tip is going to sit flush right down onto that natural nail. Now I'm going to see if I can show you guys this on camera. So this is actually a good view. So when you glue a tip, that tip is going to sit flush down onto the nail. When you use the thicker tip and jewel adhesive, there's going to be a little bit of space because that product is a little thicker. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know, it's hard to show you guys on camera, but there is going to be a little bit of space in between that natural nail and the tip because of that thicker product that we're adhering it with. So you want to size these out a little bit larger so you compensate for that little bit of extra product that's in between there. Okay, it's not just a thin layer like our glue is. So when we size, first of all, we're going to check our C curve. My brain stopped for a second, you guys. We're going to check our C curve to make sure that the curve of the nail from this side up and over, that's our C curve. We want to make sure that the C curve of our natural nail fits that C curve of the tip. So we try a couple of different sizes. And this one, you guys, on my trainer hands, I know that the size 2 in the stiletto style is what's going to fit on here. That's usually the one that I like to use. So that's actually the first one that I grabbed just instinctually. So I do know that that's going to fit. But I want to show you a couple of things if you size too large or too small. So if you size too large, actually we'll grab just a size 1. So a size 1, that is actually going to feel good for the C curve. So it's going to sit down on the C curve, but it is going to hang off a little bit on the edges. You can see how that tip hangs off on both sides, and we've got a little bit too much of that tip on there. Now, you could go through and you could file off that extra from those sides, and that C curve would still be just right on there. But, so that was a size 1. But if we go to that size 2, our C curve is still going to fit nicely, but my sides aren't going to be hanging off quite so much. If you notice, they are hanging off just a tiny, tiny little bit, just ever so slightly, and that's exactly what we're looking for. We want that hanging off ever so slightly when we size it out, because when we put that tip and jewel adhesive on, it's going to raise up just a little bit. You guys, I know it's a micro size that it's moving. But again, you want to make sure that you're sizing out ever so slightly larger so that when you do put on with that tip and jewel adhesive, it's going to raise it up just a little bit. And again, you guys, if you watch really close, it's just going to raise it up just a little bit so that it's going to come straight out from that natural nail. If we size this tip too small, now I'm going to go extra small on this one so you guys can really see the difference. If we go too small, so this one is a size 4. This one, the C curve doesn't fit. You can see that as I'm holding that tip on there, it's not sitting flush down onto that nail like, let me grab our size 2, like our size 2 is. So that size 2 is sitting flush down onto the nail. I'm not using a lot of pressure to put that on. If I were to grab that size 4 and hold that on there, you can see that it's not even fitting on there unless I really press down. If I put pressure on there, it's going to sit down on there. But the other thing is that if we look from one side, so on our right side here, our tip is coming all the way to that sidewall. If we bring it over to the other side, it's coming all the way to that sidewall. Now, when we put that tip and jewel adhesive on, it's going to raise up a little bit and you're going to end up with a little bit of a gap. The other thing too is that if you do have to use a lot of pressure to be pressing that tip down to get it to sit flat onto that C curve, what's going to happen is it's probably going to have a tendency to want to pop back up. These tips are flexible. You can see they do give a little bit, but notice that they go back to their original shape. So even if you press that nice and flat, they're going to go back to their original shape. So that's why we want to make sure that we're not putting a lot of pressure onto that tip when we set that onto the nail, because it's going to have a tendency to want to pop back up even once we adhere that with our tip and jewel adhesive. So again, this size is going to be much too small. That size 1 is going to be much too large. So we're going to go with that size 2. And if you need to, you can customize your tips. So if we take a look here, We've got our tip. It looks like it's hanging off these back corners a little bit. This tip itself is a little bit more square than what our natural cuticle area is. So for that, we can customize. And you can either file it down, or I'm going to grab my little toenail clipper here. I'm going to clip off those corners just a little bit, just enough to customize that. And then I can grab my file. And you guys, the file that I've been using, I just used that up on our trainer hand up here, so that's why it's got that orange coloring up there. But I'm using a 180 file buffer combo, and when I'm doing my full cover tips, I actually really like this file because it's got the file on one side, but then it's also got the buffer on the other side. So maybe as you were filing those natural nails, if you have a little bit of a frayed edge, you can flip over to that buffer side, clean that up. Or as we are customizing our tips, when we do file that plastic, let me file this a little bit and then I'll show you. Sometimes we get a little bit of a frayed edge. So if I push that from the back side, I get that little frayed edge. I can use that 180 grit file to shape that, but then I can flip over and I can use that buffer just really quickly to remove that frayed edge. So it's a 2-for-1 basically. It's a 2-in-1 file buffer, so that way you're only having to work with one tool. You don't have to put that down and grab another buffer and things like that. So it just makes life a little bit easier. So just customizing a little bit around that cuticle area just so that it fits a little bit better up in there. Now I still have, as I'm setting this on there, I feel like I still have just a little bit of that side coming off the edge a little bit. So I could go through and take a little bit of that off, but be very careful that you don't take too much from those sides, because again, we want to make sure that we're leaving a little bit of space so that we can adhere this with our thicker tip and jewel adhesive. And I'm also sizing this out not right up at that cuticle area. I'm actually going to apply this tip just slightly away from that cuticle area. So this way I'm going to be able to go in and blend that really well. And speaking of blending, another thing that we can do is to pre-blend or pre-bevel. And again, I'm using that 180 file buffer combo. I can go through and just gently remove the shine, but I'm taking a little bit of that bulk of the tip off right back at that cuticle area. So it's going to be a little bit easier for me to blend this out. Now, you guys, I am showing you this, but I think I actually am going to go back to another tip. I'm not going to blend this out, but just know that you can. But I want you guys to be able to see as I'm applying this tip. And sometimes it's a little harder to see, especially on camera when you have pre-beveled it, but it's another option. You can, if you want to. If you prefer, you can do all of your blending at the end after you've adhered that tip onto the nail, okay? So just know that you've got options with this. So again, that's one option to pre-blend if you want to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to grab another tip here and let's see if I got the right size. Okay, that's the right size. All right, so same thing on this one. I'm just going to really quickly customize this just a little bit, just like I did that last one there. Clean up those edges a little bit. But again, it's a personal preference. If you're somebody that uses the electric file quite a bit and you're very comfortable with that, I probably wouldn't take the time to pre-bevel this because I'm going to do all of that when I actually am using my electric file anyways. But if you are somebody that's not really super excited about using the electric file, or maybe you aren't using the electric file yet, then I would definitely go through and pre-bevel that, pre-blend that so that you don't have as much work once that's on the nail. All right, so one more time, sizing that out. I think we are good there. Now, the other thing that you want to do, and this is part of why we're prepping our tips before we're actually prepping our natural nail, because we are doing a lot of filing here and we're getting some filing dust onto our client's finger. And again, we don't want to be doing that. So one more thing that you may need to do to file when we're using that tip and jewel adhesive, this is a gel. So anytime you're adhering a gel, you want to make sure that it's not it's not adhering to a shiny surface. And we've got a shiny surface in the well of our tip. Gel generally does not like to stick to a shiny surface, so you want to do one of two things. And you guys, I've got both of these tips here, so I'm going to show you both techniques. You can do either one on either of these nails. It's totally up to you, so whichever one works best for you. But the first thing, or first option that we would want to do is we would want to take, I'm actually putting in my Mandrel, and I'm going to grab a brand new sanding band. And if you guys have been with us for a while, you all know that I always say grab a brand new sanding band for every service, for every application, so that way you've got a brand new one with a good grit. You can see I've got an old one here that's been used and worn down on my last one, my last service here. So I always want to start with a clean, brand new sanding band. Now, again, we can do one of two things. We can go through and we can use the sanding band at about 5,000 RPMs. And again, it doesn't matter if you've pre-beveled it or not. You can use either one. You can go through, whoops, I am in reverse right there. I'm going to make sure to turn that back into forward. So I'm going to use my sanding band and just going through removing the shine from the well of that tip. So this way our tip and jewel adhesive is going to adhere really, really well, because it's not going to adhere well to that shiny surface in the center. Okay. So again, that's one option, to remove the shine using your electric file. If you're doing that, make sure that you're removing that all the way down to where that tip is going to cover that natural nail. I can see there's a little bit of length still of my natural nail, so I want to make sure I'm going to take that a little bit farther down, remove the shine a little bit farther down. Now I know that that's going to completely cover. Okay, so that's one option. Our second option, and this is something that I've been doing a little bit more, just because for me it's been a lot easier, is using a coat of protein bond. And you can use that coat of protein bond right in the well of the tip. So just applying that. Now you guys notice that that tip stays shiny looking, but it's actually making that tip really, really sticky. So the protein bond is going to bond to that tip, and then our tip and jewel adhesive is going to bond to the protein bond. So that's what's giving us our sticky surface. It's not etching. I know there's a lot of products out there that etch, and to me, etching means removing the shine like this. That's, to me, is what etching means. What we just did here is not etching. What we just did is gave that tip a sticky surface and a really great bonding surface. So personal preference, you can use either one of those techniques, and both work great. And you guys, on the last set of nails that I had, I did use the protein bond. On me, they lasted 3+ weeks, and then I filled them. So it is a great technique that works really well. All right, now we're going to take this tip, and now because I do have that protein bond in there, I kind of got ahead of myself, you guys. I was going to go through and re-prep or prep our natural nail, and then I would normally put that protein bond on. When I apply the protein bond on the natural nails, I would apply that to the well of the tip. But because I've got the protein bond in here, I do want to set this off to the side so that I don't get any dust in here as I'm prepping that natural nail. And that's really why I put the protein bond on when I'm doing my prep of the natural nail. I'll put that into the well because, again, I don't want to get that dust in there. So I hope that makes sense. But just make sure, always keeping everything nice and clean and dust-free as much as possible as you're working. All right, you guys, if you are new to our channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Get great free education. We are here usually about 3 times a week with live demos for you. So make sure to subscribe and come back and join us. So let's keep going on our prep. So we've already pushed back the cuticles. Now I'm going to go in with my electric file. And again, I've still got this at, let me turn that down a little bit. I've got this at about 5,000 RPMs. I'm doing just small little circular motions right up around that cuticle. And then I'm going to feather that bit all the way down through the whole length of that natural nail. What this is going to do is it's going to create just a little bit of texture. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on here. I'm not trying to grind away that natural nail. I'm just creating a little bit of texture, and I'm also breaking up the surface oils in that nail. That's really what gives our nail the shine. I know you guys, this is a trainer hand, it's not real, but on a natural nail, what gives it that shine are oils in the surface of the nail. So you want to make sure that you're breaking up those oils, and that's really what we're doing here with the e-file. So breaking up those oils and creating a little bit of texture on that surface of the nail. Next thing we're going to do is use our manicure brush and dust that nail off. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, why do you have to do that step if you're going to cleanse the nail anyways? And you guys, we're going to use our swipe to cleanse the nail. But the reason that we do dust off before we actually cleanse is because if we were to go right into the cleanser, it's almost like making mud. I don't know, you guys, when you were a kid and you were playing in the sandbox and you take the hose out, I don't know, do kids even do that anymore these days? But you add your water to your sand and you're going to make mud. That's the same thing that happens. If you were to just go in with your swipe and come through and cleanse that nail, it's not necessarily going to remove all of that extra dust that's on the nail. You want to dust that off first so that you're not going to create mud on the nail. Get as much of that dust on the nail, clean that off as best as you can, and then you can go into your swipe and pump a little bit of that up onto your manicure brush, and then you can go through and really scrub that nail and really cleanse that. Now, what's the purpose of swipe? What swipe is going to do, that's going to help to get rid of any of those last tiny, tiny little dust particles, but then it's also going to help to pull off any of those extra oils that may still be on the nail. The nail is now going to dry to a really nice, dry, almost chalky looking surface. And it also is going to help to pull any germs and bacteria off that nail. So this is now a nice, clean, dry, balanced surface, a little bit of texture to it so that we can put our product on. Now you guys, we did put our protein bond into the well of the tip, but we're also going to apply protein bond onto this nail. So this way we're going to get a really good sticky surface on the natural nail, and we're going to have that really good sticky surface on our tip. So our tip and jewel adhesive is going to adhere really well to both sides. So it's going to adhere to that natural nail, but then it's also going to adhere really well to our tip. Now, when I do my protein bond, a couple of things I want to show you is I always will take my brush and tap out some of the excess. I don't want to just lift my brush out fully loaded. I don't know if you guys can see that on there. It's almost ready to drip. That's going to be way too much, and that can actually flood into your cuticles and the sidewalls. And that's also another reason why I start with my application in the center of the nail. So I start in the center, I bring that out to the sides, and then I work back to my cuticle area. So again, I'm not going to flood that product up into my cuticle area or down along the sidewalls. Whatever product you're using, you guys, this is a non-acid product, but with whatever product you use, you want to make sure that you're not getting it on the skin. Even though this is a non-acid product, it still is a chemical, as are your acrylics, your hard gels, even regular nail polish is a chemical, and you want to avoid getting that on the skin. So that's why I start in the center, I work out to the sides, so that way I'm not flooding that product onto the skin anywhere. All right, we've got our tip ready to go. We've got our natural nail prepped and ready to go. We've got our tip and jewel adhesive. Now you guys, I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques, and you guys can work and use whatever technique is best for you. But let me grab my manicure brush here and dust this off one more quick time. So there's a couple of ways that you can apply your tip and jewel adhesive. Now, if you've got a nice full container like this, you can take that tip and you can scoop down in there, scoop a little bit of that into the well of your tip, and then you can use that and set that down onto the nail. Now, me personally, you guys can see this. I kind of over-exaggerated it because I really want you guys to see this. But do you see in the back area here how some of that adhesive squeezed out when I set that down there? For me, when I scoop up that tip and jewel adhesive like that, like I just showed you, for me, it's harder to get it accurate. So what I like to do instead But you guys, again, if that works for you, that is a great technique and it can be done easily and well. But for me personally, I like to use our spatula, and this is our dual-ended brush and spatula. So on one end, it's got that little spatula. On the other end, it's got a brush. So that's why it's a dual-ended brush and spatula. I like to just scoop a little bit of that adhesive out, tap off those little stringy ends, and then I'll apply that directly to the well of my tip. Now for me, this works a little bit easier because I feel like I have more control of it and I can put that product exactly where I want it. So I start with that product right in the center. I'll press down my spatula, and then I'll just kind of blend that out towards the back of that cuticle area. And then use that spatula, bringing that product out towards the edges. Now I'm not bringing my product all the way to the edge. I leave just a tiny little bit of space right along through here, and then right along through that edge there. So the reason for that is so that when I do put my tip on, it's going to squeeze out a little bit of that adhesive. So that adhesive is going to squeeze out to the sides. So I want to leave just a little bit of room for that to, I don't want to say expand, but maybe just move. A little bit of space for that to move. And then we're going to adhere this to the nail. Now, when you adhere, I want to show you guys this from the side. You're not just going to take that tip and just squish it down on there. What I like to do is I'll start at a little bit of an angle downward. And again, you guys, I'll start a little ways away from the cuticle. So we're not starting right up here, because if we do have any of that product that does squeeze out the backside, I don't want it to squeeze out and touch that cuticle area. So I stay a little ways away. Again, we're at a slight downward angle. So I'm going to touch it down and then rock it down. Okay. So let me show you exactly how we're going to do this. So again, we're going to touch that back area down. I'm going to just slide it back a little bit. Just slide it back, and that's going to help to keep some of that, that adhesive underneath the nail or underneath the tip. And then we're going to rock this down. Now you guys, before I showed you how to pre-bevel and how to remove the shine from the well of the tip, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you're using this tip that you've pre-beveled, it's a little bit trickier to see that product grabbing on and adhering. So that's one of the reasons that I like to use the protein bond instead. But it works just fine as well if you do remove that shine. It's just going to be a little bit trickier to see as that product is adhering. And you want to keep an eye on how that product is basically connecting to the nail. You can see right in through here, we still have a pocket. We still have an air pocket in there. We still have a gap. Obviously, that nail is actually angling upward a little bit. We don't want it angling upward. So we're going to just gently and slowly rock that down. And this is going to help to press out that air bubble. And you're just going to gently rock that all the way down towards the free edge until it presses out that air pocket and connects to that natural nail. Now you guys, I did forget something here, and that's okay, because you can see that because we're using the tip and jewel adhesive, this product is really thick. I haven't cured this or anything, but it's not moving on me. It's not running. It's maybe just lifting up just slightly, and we'll just press that back down. But I did want to show you one other tool that we're going to be using here, and that is our Touch Cure light. And you guys, this light, I'm just going to set the hand off to the side. This is a great tool because it is a mini light, a mini curing light. So you turn on the power, and then it's got that little bit of light that it's going to cure the product. Now this one, if you tap the end of it, it's going to turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off, just by using that touch on the end. So it's nice to have this tool so that we can, once we get this tip on here and get it set, or get it in the proper position, I can just tap that and we'll set our nail on here. Now, as I've been talking, it's kind of been popping up a little bit, so let me come in a little bit. So it's gonna kind of pop a little bit or move a little bit on the trainer hand, but usually on a real person, you may not get that much movement, okay? Now, as it did move, a little bit of that gel squeezed out the back, so I want to just clean off that little bit so that way it's not going to squeeze back towards my cuticle. Again, we're going to just rock that down gently, little bit of pressure, And then once that connects all the way to the free edge, I'm going to hold it there. I'm going to tap my light, turn my light on, and we're going to cure this and just freeze that into place. Now, you guys, when we're on camera here, I am pretty close. I'm about 2 inches away from the light. On a real person, I would not recommend going that close. I would actually keep that light about, let me come back out here. I would keep that light probably about 6 inches away, or even just move that finger in and out of the light. So this way it's not going to cure so fast. If you are curing really close or curing with that light directly on there, it is going to have a little bit of heat with that. So on camera here, when I do my demos, I do show you guys close up because I want you to be able to see exactly what's going on. But on a real person, make sure that you are about 6 inches away from the light so that you're not creating extra heat. Okay? Now, the reason that we use the touch cure light is because we're going to be doing a full set of these. So you're going to just freeze this first one into place. Go ahead and apply your second nail. Freeze that into place. Okay? Apply your third nail. Freeze that into place. Apply your fourth nail. Freeze that into place. Apply your fifth nail. Freeze that into place. Once you have all 5 nails on, then you're going to put this into our full UV LED light. And this is how we're going to cure that gel all the way through. So we're going to go into our light. That needs to go in for a full 60-second cure. You want to make sure that you are completely curing this gel all the way through. And using that touch cure light, this one here, this works great for freezing it into place. But to try to fully cure that, let me show you guys here. To try to fully cure that, it can be tricky. And let me come in a little bit closer here. So when you're curing, there we go. You can see there are certain areas of the nail that are getting hit fully with that light. It's not getting fully cured all the way back here. It is getting fully cured up here. So trying to fully cure with this light, you would have to make sure that every single area of that nail is completely in that light. So I don't recommend trying to use the touch cure light to fully cure. Only use that to freeze everything into place, and then use the full UV LED light to cure everything all together. And that way, once you get all of the nails on, then you can put that whole hand in there and everything is going to fully cure all together. Okay? All right, now we've got our nail on. We're going to pretend that we have all 5 nails on. But at this point, everything is really easy because we've got our length, we've got our shape. We're not having to do any other sculpting or building or anything like that. So at this point, we're going to do a gel polish, and maybe if you guys hit the like button and hit the subscribe button enough, maybe I'll do a little bit of art after this. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, throw some love in the chat, throw some hearts or something into the chat, just so I know that you're out there with me. All right, let's see here. So you guys, at this point, our tip is cured on, and it looks like everything has fit almost perfectly, almost perfectly. There's just a tiny little bit hanging off the edge here. You can see just ever so slightly off the edge. And I am going to shape this up a little bit. There's a little bit of that plastic right off the end here. That's just how the tips are manufactured in the mold. So there's usually a little bit of a tab right on the end there. So to customize all of these little odds and ends, I'm going to go back to that 180 file buffer combo. You could use a 150 grit as well. That works great too. Again, I like the 180 file buffer combo because just in case if I need that, that little bit of a buffer, I can use that buffer. But I'm going to taper this in just ever so slightly, straighten out my edges ever so slightly. I want to make sure I'm getting a really nice, nice straight stiletto here. I think I like how that's looking. And again, you guys, you don't have a lot of filing to do because you already have that shape in there. Now, if you wanted to, you could go in with your tip cutter and you could shorten that up. Like I was saying earlier, if you take off the end of that nail, you basically would have a coffin shape. So you could, shorten that up down to a coffin shape, or you could, again, trim that down and make it a little bit more of an almond shape. So however you want to customize this nail, you are welcome to do that. I think we're going to leave it with a stiletto just because it's going to be fun for today. All right, now we were talking earlier about blending out that seam in the back. So I'm going to go back to my sanding band, and I'm going to also grab my dust collector. You guys, if you don't have a dust collector, it is one of those things, along with the electric file, that I highly recommend you use, because a lot of this dust is really, really fine, and any dust that you generally see on your hands is not something you're going to worry about. It's all of those really fine dust particles that can float up into the air as you're filing. So using a dust collector like ours is going to help to pull all of those little teeny tiny dust particles down away from your breathing zone. Now we're going to turn our e-file on to, I'm going to say about 6,000 to 7,000 RPMs. Still fairly low and slow. I always like to say low and slow. And we're going to work up around that cuticle area. Now, all we're trying to do is blend in that tip. Let me come a little closer. So we're just trying to blend the tip. We're not trying to file onto that natural nail, and we're definitely not trying to touch that cuticle area. So as you're filing, I'm going to turn this on the side so you guys can see. You want to make sure that that bit stays on the surface of the tip, and it's never going past and touching that natural nail. We've already prepped that natural nail, and that's all that we need to do. If you continue to file on that natural nail, that's where you're going to start to get those rings of fire or a little bit of damage on that natural nail. So you want to make sure that you're always avoiding filing on that natural nail as much as possible, okay? So I'm just like we were doing our prep, I'm using short little strokes all the way up around that cuticle area on that tip to just blend that down. And all I'm trying to do is get that tip so that it's flush down to the natural nail, so that there's no ledge or anything that my client is going to catch her hair on or anything like that. So once you have that blended nice and evenly, I'm going to go through and I'm going to remove the shine, because we're going to be using a gel polish over this. And just like we were talking about adhering that tip and jewel adhesive to the shiny surface, a gel polish is also not going to adhere to the shiny surface. So we're going to use our e-file here and just feathering through to remove the shine, create a little bit of texture, similar to what we were doing when we were prepping the natural nail. But again, just removing shine, creating texture, making sure that there's no shiny edges here. And I think we're looking good. Now, as you're removing shine, make sure that you do keep an eye on those edges right down along the sides here. Same thing on the other side. On this side, I use the top part of my bit to clean that up. On the right side here, I'm going to use more of the base of my bit, but you want to make sure that you're completely removing the shine from the edges, because I think a lot of times we feather our bit through the top and come down those sides, but we miss that little bit of a lower edge, and that's where our gel polish may have more of a tendency to separate from. If you have that little bit of a shiny edge and you put your gel polish over that, that gel polish is not going to want to adhere to that. So again, make sure that you're getting all the way to those edges, removing the shine all the way through those edges. All right, next thing we're going to do, dust off our nail. You guys, dusting off the nail is always a crucial thing. You want to always keep that nail as clean as possible. Oh, you guys, one thing that I forgot to mention, I don't think we have any gel squeezing out the back end here, but if you do, make sure to give that just a quick cleanse. And to cleanse that underneath, you're going to want to use your ManiQ Cleanser. Now, I know we were using Swipe earlier to cleanse the natural nail, but Swipe has a little bit of acetone to it, and acetone can start to just kind of dull down that surface underneath there. So ManiQ Cleanser does not have any acetone to it. So if you do have that last little bit of gel that maybe squeezed out a little farther than you were expecting, take one of the lint-free wipes, pump a little bit of that ManiQ Cleanser on there. I fold mine over, so this way I can get it right up underneath that natural nail. So just getting right in there, Just getting right in there, cleaning that out. So if there is any of that last little bit of gel under there, it's not going to have a tacky surface staying there. You want to make sure that you're always removing any tacky surface so that doesn't come in contact with your client's skin over time. Okay? All right, now we've dusted off that nail. We're cleansed underneath there. We're good to go. If you feel the need to, if you had natural nails showing up through here, you can very, very quickly cleanse that with swipe. Most of the time, though, I do like to just use the ManiQ Cleanser to just give that a quick cleanse. Now, I'm going to show you one little trick here. If you did have, excuse me, if you did have a lot of that natural nail showing up by the cuticle and you need to cleanse with the swipe, what I would say is take a little bit of that onto your lint-free wipe, just like we did underneath, fold that over, and then just gently come right through that top area. So that way it's going to cleanse that natural nail, but it's not going to have that acetone onto the plastic tip. Okay, so just an option there. Otherwise, you can use just the ManiQ Cleanser if you don't have that natural nail showing through. A little bit of that ManiQ Cleanser to, again, just remove the last little bits of dust that may still be on that nail. Okay. Dream Big says, I'm not used to seeing your nails so short. I know, you guys. I went short now because it's spring and summer, and I've got some gardening that I'm going to start to be doing here. So you guys, that's actually a good thing to note. You know, this time of year and when seasons change, your clients may need to change up their length. They may need to change up their shape. If I were to be wearing stilettos like this, I would not do well digging in my garden. So that's why I changed my shape a little bit during the summer months, because I am gardening. So make sure to have those conversations with your clients. What are they doing during this time of year? Are they doing anything different? Are they changing things? Are they, you know, working in the garden? Do they need to go a little shorter? So definitely something to keep an eye out on. All right, we've got our nail prepped. We're ready to go. I'm going to put on another coat of our Protein Bond. Now, you guys, Protein Bond is a great bonder, and there's so many different uses for it. We use it on the natural nail to adhere our gels and our acrylics and our pretty much everything. But at this point, I'm just applying another coat of that so that we get a really good adhesion with our gel polish on here. So if you are applying gel polish, I highly recommend doing that one extra coat of Protein Bond. Now, you guys, I think we've got a little bit of time for a design on the nail. So we're going to start with a full cover color, and I'm going to be using Ballerin-oh, and that's actually what I've got on my pinky and my ring finger here. So just a really soft, really pretty, slight shimmer, just a really pretty soft pink. So we're going to do 2 coats. Now, when I polish my gel polish on, I start about halfway down with, if I'm working on a long nail, I definitely start halfway down. And the reason for this, I work out to the sides here. And the reason for this is that this way I can cap my free edge. Same thing, I can cap my sidewalls, I can cap my free edge. And sometimes when you do that, do you see how there's, let me grab my little brush here. You can see how there's a little bit of extra bulk right around those edges. So when you are capping, we're making sure to get enough product on those edges so that we don't see any unfinished looks. But again, you can see there's excess polish down here, and sometimes it'll puddle right down here at the tip. You can see that's kind of getting a little bit of a puddle right there. I do that free edge so that way I can now go back, I can perfect my cuticle area, press my brush down, get that brush to fan out, and then I'll sweep down and I'll pull that brush all the way down the length of the nail. And this is going to help to smooth out and get rid of any of that puddling. So that's just my little trick that I like to use. I know there's lots of other different tricks that people like to do when they're polishing, but for me, that is what works really good so that I don't get those puddles or that excess buildup. So we're going to pop this into the light. For this one can go in for just a quick 30-second freeze. Let me set my timer here for 30 seconds. So when you're working with a gel polish, you can do 30 seconds, and I'm talking about our ManiQ color. So ManiQ color, you can do a 30-second freeze for each coat, and then you can do your next coat. 30 seconds is enough to basically set this product into place, and then you can move on to the next layer. And this first layer is still going to continue to cure when we put our second layer on. So 30 seconds is a good amount of time to set that product into place. Now, if you're working on a full set, I always say have one hand in the light and work on the other hand. However long it takes you to do that second hand, that's how long I would keep this hand in the light. It's going to take you, I would say, at least 30 seconds, probably longer, to polish all of the nails on one hand. So however long it takes you to do the opposite hand, that's how long you would keep the first one in the light. But it's usually at least 30 seconds just to make sure we've got that product set into place and cured enough so that we can do our second coat. All right, same thing, second coat here. Brushing on. I started about halfway down. Now I'm working my way back towards my cuticle. And you guys, I'm seeing a couple of little areas by my cuticle and my sidewalls that I want to touch up. Oops, sorry, let me get a little closer. So if I need to touch anything up, I'm going to grab my little ceramic tile, and I know you guys, if you've been with us for a while, you've seen me use this multiple times. I use it really with most of my services. It's just a ceramic tile. It's not anything fancy. I used a little bit of swipe to cleanse that off there, and I do want to make sure that's nice and dry. But if you need to, you can grab either your liner brush or your micro detailer, whichever one works better for you. You can see the liner is a little bit of a longer brush. The micro detailer is a really teeny tiny short little brush. But if you do need to touch up any little spots up around that cuticle, you can see there's a couple of little areas that I would like to get just a little bit closer. I'm going to take a little bit of that polish, set that onto my tile, and then I can use either one of those brushes and just come right up around that cuticle area and touch up and get that product just a little bit closer. Just touching a little bit closer. Now, at this point, I will go back one more time with my brush to make sure that everything is nice and smooth and that didn't leave any little puddles back by that cuticle area. Okay, so let's get this one back into the light again for another 30-second freeze. We'll set that one into place. And you guys want some art today? Let me know in the chat. Throw some little hearts into the chat if you want a little bit of art today. I think I know what your answer is going to be. So I'm going to just go ahead and do some art anyways. All right, Anna, I see your nails on the chat there. So because Anna put some fun little nails in there, and Margate and Precious. Yes, Anna, you guys you want to see some art? All right, let's do some art. So I've got a couple of different colors that I'm going to use today. I've got two of my cream clays. So cream clays are a little bit of a thicker gel. Now these are not something that you would use for building or sculpting. This is more of an art product. So they are very thick. You can see I've used these and they don't self-level, they don't settle back down. And then I also have one of our Mission Control gel paints. Now this is a much thinner viscosity. This one, the cream clays, I could sit here and hold this upside down all day long and it's probably not going to run or spill or anything. This one, the Mission Control, if I do tilt that on the side, you can see it is a little bit more self-leveling. It is going to run a little bit more. The Mission Control is a little bit higher pigmented than the cream clays. But today I like these three colors, so that's what I wanted to use. So we've got, in our cream clays, we've got Dolphin Squeaker. And in, let's see, the yellow one is Side Eye and Sunnies. And then our Mission Control is Mega Jam. So you guys, you can use a combination of whatever you want to work with. You don't have to just work with cream clays, or you don't have to just work with Mission Control. You can find the colors that you like and create whatever designs you want. So today we're going to do a really fairly quick and easy design because we don't have all day to be spending on our nails today. So I'm going to go back to my liner brush, and you know what? I think I need to mix my my mission control here. Sometimes your mission controls, because they are so highly pigmented, the pigment can settle. So I like to use a spatula and just go through and gently mix that up to make sure that the pigment has come together with the gel. And I'm going to take a little bit of that out onto my tile. You can use it either directly from the jar or from your tile. Follow your state boards and do what your state board allows, but sometimes I do like to work with it from the tile. Personal preference, however you want to work. So we're going to start, and you guys, this design that I planned out, it's giving me some really 90s vibes, but I think the 90s are kind of coming back in. So really fun 90s vibe nail. I'm just going to roll my brush through that mission control paint and then just drag out a little bit. I don't want to completely load up my brush. I don't need this much on my brush, but I do want to load that paint so that it is all the way in my brush. So I'm just rolling my brush through, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of that, and we're going to do just a little swirl on the nail. So we're going to start on one side. I'm going to keep my brush a little bit more straight up and down. I may use a little bit of pressure, so I'm going to touch to the nail. I'm going to use a little bit of pressure, bend the bristles a little bit, and then just dragging. And as I'm dragging, I'm lightening up on the pressure and pulling towards the end. I'm going to take a little bit more. I want a little bit more of a bold line here, so I might not use quite as much pressure, and I might just touch that up a little bit, just using the point of my brush now. I'm not putting any pressure. Once I've come up with that, basically that line, now I just want to thicken that up a little bit and make it a little bit more bold. So I'm just going through, touching that up. Again, basically floating over the surface of this. I'm not putting pressure on my brush. And actually, I think I'm going to switch to my micro detailer just to give this a little bit more, more precision so that I don't make my line too wide. And just making that little swirl. Now, I always tell you guys, I like to finish my ends. And what I mean by that is right now, the end of my line here, it just kind of fades off. Same thing down here. So what I like to do is give it a more finished look, and I'm going to taper this out just a little bit. So just bring that out a little bit so it looks like it was intentional and not just fading out off of the edge. So a little bit more of an intentional look. And then same thing up by that cuticle area or that sidewall, a little bit more of an intentional look. Maybe just create a little bit of a wider base down here. Okay, so again, you can see it does look a little bit more finished and not just like it's fading off at the end. Now, at this point, I'm going to move my gels away because I'm going to bring in that touch cure light again. So that same one that we were using to freeze our tip into place. I'm going to use that to just set my design here. So one line here, I'm just going to set this into place. The touch cure light is going to freeze it for, I would say, maybe 10 to 20 seconds or so. Again, just to set that into place so that when I do add my next line, I'm not going to smudge this first one that I have. So just a few seconds in there. Now, depending on how you want your design, you can use your blue, you can use your yellow. You guys, you pick your own colors, create your own colors, whatever you like. I think I'm gonna go with my blue. And again, this was Dolphin Squeaker. Now with this one, because it is a little bit of a thicker viscosity, I just wanna make sure I have that little fuzz off my brush. I'm actually gonna, for this design, I'm gonna put my brush down into that gel and swirl it around. You guys, I wanna show you something. When I was working off the tile, I took my brush and I rolled it between my fingers as I'm pulling through that gel paint. This is how I load up my brush when I'm working with the Mission Control. So now you can see I've got a good amount of gel paint on my brush. When I'm working with the cream clays, they're a little bit of a thicker viscosity. So for those, I'll just put the brush straight down in, swirl that around a little bit, and that's going to be how I load up my brush. Okay? So just a little extra tip there. Let's take a little bit of that Dolphin Squeaker And I'm not going to completely outline this. I'm going to do about a half of a line here. So again, take a little bit more. I think I need a little more thickness down here. And I'm putting a little bit of pressure with my brush, winding it around, and now I'm lightening up the pressure, lightening up the pressure, lightening up the pressure, and release. Okay, so as you're trying to get those finer lines, you're going to be using more of just the point of the brush. When you're working down here, you can use a little bit more pressure to get a little bit more thickness. So just depending on what you want your design to look like. If you want a thicker line, use more pressure. Thinner line, less pressure. But we're just going to fade that right out there. I'm going to take a little bit more of our color and, like I said before, finish off that line so it doesn't look like it's just fading out. Let's go on to our opposite side. Same thing up here. Take a little bit more of that, a little bit of pressure, tracing that line, a little bit more pressure. I think I need a little more of my gel. A little bit of pressure, tracing that line and lightening up. Whoops, got to turn my finger here a little bit. Sorry, guys. Lightening up on that pressure so that my color just fades out. And it's almost like they meet in the middle, but on opposite sides. Okay, again, I'm going to touch up that back area so that it looks like it is intentional. And again, if I need to clean up anything through that line, I can redo that. Okay, I think I'm liking that. I'm going to go one more time with my Touch Cure light, freeze that line into place. And again, you guys, when you're freezing it into place, it only needs to go for, I would say, 10 to 20 seconds. So just really quick and easy, and then you can go on to your next. All right, we've got one more color here. We've got our bright yellow, and we're going to go back to the other side. Same thing, swirl my brush into my gel, get a good amount on there. Trace that line, so a little bit of pressure, 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 lightening up on my pressure, lightening up, and release. Okay, again, let's blend that back, make it look intentional, and we'll do the same thing on the opposite side. Pressure, 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 lightening up, lightening up, lightening up, and release. Same thing, make our end look intentional. Maybe bring that out just a little bit more. All right, I think I like that. I think I need a little bit more of an intentional finish over on this side here. We're going to thicken that up just a little. All right, I think I like how that's looking. What do you guys think? Do you like the colors? Do you like the design? Do you think this is something that you would be able to do on your own nails or your clients' nails? Let me know in the chat. And if you guys haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we want you guys to have free education. So make sure to subscribe. And those of you that know what time it is, you know what to do. Let's go ahead and start our top coat chant in the chat. If you are new to our channel, this is just our fun way of ending our live stream. We do a little top coat chant in the chat, and all you have to do is just type top coat, top coat, top coat. And I'm going to apply our top coat. And today I'm going to use the Ultimate Finish Gel. Sometimes when I'm doing designs like this, they're going to be just ever so slightly textured. So our Ultimate Finish is a little bit of a thicker top coat. So sometimes this will add, oh, you guys, you know what? I forgot my 90s, the really 90s part of this. Just really quick, I know you guys are doing the top coat chant, but I just wanted to add a really quick 90s look to this. Because, I mean, it kind of looks 90s, but if we add a little bit of Overdrive. So Overdrive is our Mission Control black gel paint. I'm going to stir that up. And you guys, this is what is really going to give it that 90s look. I'm going to grab my dotting tool. I'm going to just touch that into our gel paint. And I might need to take just a little bit of that off. And let's go ahead and add some fun little accents here. So we're just going to do some quick little dots all the way up and around. And again, you guys, total 90s vibe. I absolutely love this. If you want to leave the dots off, you can leave the dots off. If you want to add them in, add them in. You guys, take these inspirations and create your designs, create your own designs, and have some fun. One more time to freeze those with our Touch Cure Light, and then we'll go ahead and do our top coat. Again, you guys, just a quick, maybe 10 to 20 second freeze with our Touch Cure Light. And then let's now go ahead and finish with our Ultimate Finish top coat. So again, our Ultimate Finish is a slightly thicker top coat, so it is going to help to level out any of these designs that we put on here. And it is also a tack-free top coat. So once this cures in the light, you want to cure it for 60 seconds. But once this cures in the light, it is going to be fully cured. There's no tacky finish to cleanse off. And once it's cured, it's going to be done and ready to go and ready for your client to walk out the door. So you guys, I'm just going to freeze that into place for a few seconds, and then I will show you the final look. But again, make sure that you are curing that in the light for a full 60 seconds. Let's see, somebody is asking, do you ship gels? You guys, everything that I've been using here today is all available on the Young Nails website, youngnails.com. We do ship from the website. We ship US and Canada, but if you are in another country, still go to our website, and we've got a part down at the bottom, a little tab you can click on to find a distributor close to you. So wherever you are, check out our website, youngnails.com, and see if we've got a distributor near you. Say that 5 times fast. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully this design has inspired you. Hopefully you now are a little bit more comfortable working with the full cover tips, and you can apply those to your clients. You can apply them to yourself and have some fun with your 90s inspired design. Thanks everybody for joining us. We will see you guys back next time. Thanks everybody.